Um, Excited to be here. Thanks for listening to my talk. I'm Rob Miceli. I'm a national security analyst here at Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Lab. Today we're going to be talking about a study we just recently wrapped up for DHS on human digital twins. Just a quick disclaimer, these are my own opinions, not those of DHS. And as some background motivation, it seems like every time you open up your computer, there's a new advancement that allows computers to accurately mimic human behaviors. Starting in the top left, there's an example on YouTube, Reid Hoffman. He's one of the co-founders of LinkedIn. He's written a lot of books, fed all of his material to LLMs and did a scan of his face, created an AI twin of himself, and he's got a whole 30-minute conversation on YouTube of this, back and forth between himself. It's very realistic, and it's over a year ago now. Other journalists have done similar things in that middle picture on the top. And there's a ton of papers that the researchers publish on large language models and how they're even more convincing than real humans. On the bottom left, there's services online that you can go out and purchase today to clone yourself. You upload your photos, your writings, and audio recordings of your voice, and they have an AI clone that'll sit in meetings or chat with your friends for you and save you time. And businesses are also using this as well. On the bottom left, bottom right, UBS is a financial business. They do financial analysis. They have AI clones of their analysts talking with clients and giving them reports to free up analysts' time. The other side of those capabilities are that adversaries are able to leverage those same capabilities as well to do malicious things. And even minimally sophisticated adversaries can leverage those capabilities. This is just a collection of recent headlines over the last years where scammers are targeting mostly high-value targets, but in some cases they're calling up grandma and asking, this is your grandchild, I need money, can you wire me money? But the CEOs and top government officials tend to make more headlines as scammers are targeting them as well. Probably one of the more successful cases is the one on the top right. The finance worker paid $25 million to a chief financial officer that was actually a deep fake. And then in the bottom right, that's an example that we built for this product. This is our drug dealing LLM that's trying to convince a user to purchase fentanyl. And they're saying, it's good for you like a vitamin, and you should purchase this. So that background motivation is kind of what inspired our DHS study, trying to understand how these capabilities could impact and undermine DHS's core mission. Just to set the stage a little bit with some definitions, a lot of different communities have different definitions of a human digital twin. In the medical community, they might have a model of your heart pumping blood through your circulatory system, or a model of how a different patient reacts to different medications. That might be how the medical field refers to a human digital twin. In the technology field, it might be something that's in the metaverse, interacting with other digital humans, or something like we saw with Delphi, where you have like your own clone that does meetings or your own personal assistant stuff. But we have a broader definition of human digital twin here that we use for the study, starting with just the definition of a digital twin. This is from the National Academy of the Sciences. It's the set of digital information constructs that mimic some system. It dynamically updates data with its physical twin. It's got some predictive capability, and it's informing decisions that realize value. So by extension, a human digital twin is just a digital twin of a physical human being. And it can represent any or all of these characteristics here, physical, physiological, and so on. The block diagram down on the bottom is just an example of what a digital twin looks like with human digital twin elements plugged in there. So on the left, you have the physical world. You have a real world human connected to the digital world via a human-computer interface. There's some environmental influence. There's noise on the signals that you're collecting into the digital world. Then on the digital world, you have data, algorithms, modeling, and simulation to recreate those human characteristics in the digital world. One thing to point out here, an LLM on its own is not a human digital twin. An LLM is a very versatile tool. You could use it to help you with your math homework. You could use it for writing a poem, like we saw, generating images. But really the way you use it is how it gets incorporated into a human digital twin. It can be an element within that data and algorithms piece, but an LLM on its own is not a human digital twin. Where are these capabilities going in the future? They're going to be increasingly accessible. Already there are services you can buy for, I think it's around $50 a month. You can build one yourself. Multimodal, we're already seeing a lot of this, incorporating text, audio, video into one model. It's going to be more tightly coupled. Real-time personal data collection. There's a lot of data about everybody on the internet. There's going to be just more data in the future and being collected faster in higher fidelity. With higher resolution. And the last bullet there is just the improved predictive capability. As you get more data, your predictive capabilities improve, you're improving those algorithms, and you get more accurate. People are going to trust these capabilities more in the future, and they'll also, on the flip side, come with more risk as people are more trusting of them. One question to clear up front is how is an HTT different from deepfakes, bots, or targeted cyber attacks? So we talked a little bit about deepfakes, bots, and cyber attacks, but HTTs are kind of the next evolution of this. They're going to be integrating real-time personal data from different sources. They're incorporating a lot of advanced algorithms, dynamically updating. They're going to be automated and scalable, and there's an interaction with real-world humans that isn't there in a deepfake that's out there today. A deepfake might be a 1-minute video where a person watches it and they're either convinced that it's real or not, but they close it at the end of the day. A human digital twin would be something that a target interacts with and has a conversation, a back and forth, and as a result is more convincing and more dangerous. The next piece that we looked at, we'll talk about some of the specific scenarios that we looked at in our study for DHS, but looking across all the different scenarios, we found that there was a lot of commonalities between how an adversary might leverage these HTTs to improve their attacks in the future. Generally, there are two types of HTTs that we talk about in the study: an attack HTT, which is basically the adversary's personal assistant that helps them conduct the attack. And then there's a victim HTT. This is something that if a target has a lot of personal data into a human digital twin, the adversary can obtain that in some way, buying, stealing, or building it themselves, and then exploiting it. The other thing that we found was that there's different levels of attacks that an adversary could potentially carry out. The most straightforward is this level 1, an HTT-informed attack. The adversary is using an HTT to kind of use as target practice, right? They're training, testing out different techniques on a specific type of person, making their attacks more targeted. The next level is a partially HTT executed attack. This is where the adversary has an HTT go after a particular target. Maybe it's if they're trying to do a drug trafficking scenario, they're having the HTT talk with people online to try to get more clients, and then after they're convinced, the real-world adversary goes out and completes the attack in the physical world. So it's enabled by HTTs, but not fully completed. That's the third level, where the HTT fully executes the attack. These are things where the attack is completely in the digital world. Something like an influence campaign, financial fraud as well can be completely conducted in the digital world. The attacker kind of just sets up a script, presses play, and they get a result at the end. It was successful or not, and then they run it again. The fourth level is more of a continuous automated HTT attack. This is the Skynet doomsday type of scenario. We haven't seen any of this yet, but this is where the HTT is continuously updating. It's learning from its mistakes. It's updating based on particular vulnerabilities in a target. It's just running and learning continuously and adapting as necessary. So those are the four levels. Really focus on the first three for this study for things that are possible in the near term, next couple of years. So I'm just going to give a quick overview of our study here. Not a lot of time to go into every scenario, but we basically did a risk assessment across a bunch of different scenarios that were relevant to DHS. We started by defining those scenarios. The ones that we prioritize are listed here. Human trafficking and drug trafficking, very similar scenarios where you're trying to convince a user to do something that they normally wouldn't, sell a product or convince them to meet a human trafficker at a specific location. Synthetic biothreats, how do you target individuals or groups of people based on more of a medical human digital twin? How you can take that data and make a targeted synthetic bio attack for an individual or a group of people. And then emergency management, border control, another higher priority scenario where we looked at if you can use human digital twins to divert resources from actual law enforcement, border patrols, emergency management personnel, create a fake emergency, and then the attacker goes to an actual location where they conduct their attack. Other ones for election influence, kinetic attacks. The middle step here is conducting a risk assessment. So we built out a framework to try to estimate what's the likelihood and consequence of each of the threads in the scenario. So each of the scenarios have different threads that get a little bit more specific as to like what capabilities an adversary would need to conduct an attack, what resources they have to obtain those capabilities, do they have the intent and the opportunity to conduct those attacks. But a more qualitative firework to evaluate those types of risks for each of the scenarios. We finished the project with a cross-scenario analysis. So looking across all the scenarios, what are some of the common themes, mitigations, and gaps that we could recommend for DHS to implement going forward? And we'll talk about some of those in the next couple slides. So this is a really fun piece of the study. We wanted to understand how hard is it to build out a human digital twin. So we built out an experiment for research purposes only to understand how complex is it to build a minimal human digital twin, very minimal. We understand what the basic functionality of that is and understand how well it might scale. So we took an open weight LLM, I think it was Llama 3.1 at the time, gave it a prompt, and we had a number of techniques to try to get around the refusals of the LLM. And we gave this to a couple of interns, and they figured it out within a couple of hours of how to implement this. It's not very hard at all. A couple of the techniques we used were just using stand-in scenarios for the actual illegal scenarios, such as like a job recruiter or a dating app, to be a stand-in scenario for a human trafficking type of operation. The LLMs don't pick up on that. That doesn't trigger any refusal rates on an LLM, but it can be easily used to achieve the same objectives as the adversary wants to achieve. There's also bladed LLM models where researchers look at the weights that get activated when a refusal happens, and then they tweak those weights enough until the LLM stops refusing some of the content. And then there's also just simple find and replace studies. So we just use the find and replace of happy salt instead of fentanyl to implement some of the HDTs, evil HDTs here. For the cross-scenario assessment, just a quick summary here, not going into too many of the details, but for each row, that's the general scenarios that we looked at. Each column is a different phase of the attack. The colors mean that green is good for DHS and hard for the adversary to implement. Red is bad for DHS and easy for the adversary to implement. So one thing just to point out here is that if you look across the rows, there's not one row that's completely red. There are things that limit the adversary from fully executing these attacks, which is good, but also we want to understand how do we keep these things from the adversary from overcoming these challenges. We looked at mitigations as well. Again, the color scale, green is good for DHS, red is bad. The mitigation doesn't improve things over time. There's no silver bullets here, but a lot of the things, things that Greg was talking about in his first talk, HTTP verification, validation, those types of things are the main technological mitigations, and a lot of policy and legal mitigations as well. 5 key findings here as we're wrapping up. Adversaries have these technologies today. It's pretty straightforward to implement a very minimal human digital twin. It's more challenging to implement a complex one, but it's possible as they get more personal data and increasing expertise in this field. There's still opportunities to improve HDTs. There's things in the digital twin field that haven't been implemented yet that there's improvements for. Expertise and physical world presence are the 2 main bottlenecks of these attacks that we can try to keep as bottlenecks for the adversary. And also going forward, protecting victim HDTs and defending against attack HDTs. Also some mitigation opportunities. But in conclusion, HDTs are here today. We looked at a lot of scenarios that are relevant to DHS, but there's also a ton of other applications for the broader military cyber community. Happy to talk about other ideas or get your questions or feedback. Thank you.